This is The Hub on Hollywood, an iHeartRadio podcast. I'm your host, James Rojas. Our other co-host, Jamie Blanco, is on assignment, but she will be back next week. But this week's episode, we do have the pleasure of being joined by a local actor who is appearing in TV shows, movies, video games. Like, what aren't you appearing in? My co-host today is Shahjehan Khan. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, James.
So, yeah, like I said, you are like, what do they call it? A Renaissance man?
Is that, yeah, I guess that's accurate.
Yeah. Because...
I'll take the compliment.
Well, no, thank you so much for being here because you are no stranger to WBZ or the iHeartRadio family because we were introduced by our friend Matt Shearer, who couldn't be here today, but I saw the video he did, and this is how I first was introduced to you. I'm sure a lot of people who haven't seen your shows or your movies, but they've seen your face on a video game in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Matt, it's funny because Matt and I actually grew up in the same town, and we went to the same high school. He's a few years younger than me, so he was kind of, he was my brother's friend. So we weren't like close or anything growing up, but then my friend was having his 40th birthday, and Matt happened to be there. And then basically a few years before that, I had been approached by WB Games to be the face of a video game character. I didn't know which one until I signed a couple contracts. Matt's video we talk about it in sort of a funny way.
We'll link below.
Yeah. And then I ended up as the face of one of the major characters in the new MK1. And then it just so happened that it was my friend Eric's 40th birthday, and Matt happened to be there. And I told him about this, and he was like, "Dude, what are you doing tomorrow? Do you want to make a video about this?" I was like, "Hell yeah, man, let's do it." So that's kind of how that happened. And then that was probably the most viral video I've ever been a part of so far, So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy still, I don't play the game because I'm not. I used to play Mortal Kombat. I just haven't kept up with video games.
Yeah, like the first version where it's the side view. Yeah. I mean, I guess they're all still the side view, but like the pixelated version of. Yeah.
That's usually what people want to know. Like, so do you play? And sometimes jokingly, I'll be like, yeah, I play every day. I play as myself, and but no, truthfully,
yeah.
I don't, so.
Well, speaking of just worlds colliding, as we mentioned, Matt, you also met Jamie at the watch party briefly because it was so popular or so busy rather because of the premiere of Deli Boys.
Yes.
Again, I don't want to skip any, and we won't skip any of your stuff. But folks, if they're not familiar with your face from Mortal Kombat, they probably recognize you from Succession, from
Aftermath
on Netflix, which, if I remember correctly, was like the #1 movie on Netflix.
The #1 movie in the U.S., U.K., Australia, a few other places for a week, and also #3 in the world. And it's about the Tobin Bridge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Again, so much to dissect in this episode, but we'll go back to that watch party because it was featured in our last episode of The Hub on Hollywood, just showing how packed it was for Deli Boys. And I'll be honest, I didn't hear much about it. I'm not sure about the advertisement. I don't have Hulu. I mean, I have Hulu now because my wife has Disney Plus.
Sure, yeah. I think it's interesting because their marketing's been pretty nuts and insane and incredible, but I think there's just so much stuff out there that you always do stuff and you hope that it'll make an impact. But I mean, so far so good.
It's certified fresh.
It is
on Rotten Tomatoes.
As of yesterday or the day before. Yeah.
So this watch party was there. You had the first 4 episodes.
That's right. So there's a wonderful local organization called Subcontinental Drift. It's sort of it's a space for that. Anybody can go and anybody can perform, but it's primarily kind of fosters performance and especially first-time artists and stuff in the South Asian community in the Boston area. So it's a place that I've been going to for more than 10 years. They've been very supportive to me as an artist. So when Deli Boys was coming out, I always had this idea. I knew we'd be doing the big fancy premieres in LA and Sundance and New York, which we did. But I always wanted to do a hometown, because for me, being in this career now and also having done music before, there's something about when people are always like, "Oh, so you're gonna move to Hollywood?" I'm like, "No, man, I'm from Boston. I'm staying here, and like my family's here, my friends are here, and like I'm also just kind of like a regular person." So I just wanted to do a hometown party. So Subcontinental Drift, Subdrift, has been looking for a new space for their open mic, and one of the places they've been piloting or testing out is Zoomix in East Boston, which is another one of my favorite places. So they were like, maybe we could do it there, and Zoomix very graciously offered to like have us there for free. And then my mom and my sister stepped in to like my sister Nurjahan and Mariam and Tina, my mom. They're like expert party planners, so we didn't have to worry about it. They bought match. So in the show Deli Boys, my character is sort of notorious for wearing a red velvet tracksuit. So they bought matching tracksuits. So they made like confetti with my face on it, and like
your face was on the wall, like literally your face had multiple faces on the wall.
So and it was the sweetest. Like that's what it's all about, man. Like when you can share. I'm 41. I've been producing art and performing since I was like 7 years old. So it's just like having come this far and still being in it and still like being able to do it in new ways, is like immensely rewarding. So that was out of all of them, like they were all great. All the premieres were great for different reasons, obviously. But like the hometown one, there's just something special about that. And we had like a ton of snacks, which I still have a bunch of leftovers that are sitting in the trunk of my car.
Excellent. So, we'll talk after this about the snacks. But for our listeners or viewers who haven't seen Deli Boys, what is it about?
So Deli Boys is so they invented a word to describe it, crimedy. So like crime comedy. So it is Deli Boys is essentially a story about a Pakistani-American crime family. And it's like a comedy kind of in the style of Sopranos. It's about these two sort of like hapless idiot brothers who are born into money and, are kind of spoiled and stuff. Their dad, played by their dad, I could name all, the actors are all unbelievable. Like,
they're all so good.
And they're like literally dreams of mine to like, work with. And so like the dad dies in a freak golf accident, and then the sons inherit what they think is, so deli, bodega, whatever. Like, so they think they're inheriting this whole chain of delis around the country. Turns out to be a front for cocaine trafficking, and that's where the dark side of the family. So the family name is Dar, last name, and so there's Darko. The company's Darko, and then the kids are introduced to Darko, where there's a bunch of like mob bosses, our gang of the four of us that are called Maliks. So yeah, it's this wild, zany, like 10-episode series, and it's like changed my life, man.
It's so, and I watch a lot of shows, I watch a lot of movies, and I'm being completely honest here. I don't remember the last time I'm literally laughing every 1 or 2 minutes because of something one of the brothers says, a situation they find themselves in. The physical comedy is hilarious. The writing is really good.
Yeah.
The writing is really good. And are all the actors, are you Pakistani?
So my family's from Pakistan. I was born here. My parents came over in the 70s. So it's a majority South Asian cast, not just Pakistanis. Pakistanis, Indians, from folks from all over the subcontinent. There's a bunch of different writers and directors and from all across the spectrum. But I think it's like for a South Asian show, it's the kind of show that like it's cool in spite of all of that. I think we're at a time in the year 2025 where there's been year-long discussions about representation and things in Hollywood and stuff, and there's been we're kind of at that point where like we can just like make our own stuff and it can just be cool, and like the joke that I keep making is like, or that everybody has been making is that, we can be drug dealers too, like we don't, and everything doesn't have to necessarily be focused so much on identity, though that stuff is very important, like in the case of Deli Boys, it's just kind of like an incidental thing, and it's just still like a cool show, which is why I think but I think it's like all of those things like play off of each other, and I think maybe that's what's so appealing to people about it. Other than the incredible writing, the incredible cast. I mean, how many like insane guest stars can you have in like one show? It's like unbelievable.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's good. And I mean, look, the creator of the show, Abdullah Saeed, is actually my oldest friend in the world. Our grandfathers knew each other in Pakistan.
Wow.
And I've been like watching him do different, and he's sort of famous for working at Vice for a long time, for starting one of their most popular shows, and then was one of the first people to leave and do his own thing. And So he was always like that cool friend that was always like definitely cooler than you, telling you about the cool music and also just like encouraging you to be like the best version of yourself. So, he actually talks about like he wrote it, and I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but he wrote the script as to get a staff writing job, and then Jenny Connor basically was like, no, we should try to get this thing made. And then just kind of and I'm sure you're familiar with like the journey of actually writing something and then trying to sell it. Everybody says no, and then eventually somebody picks up a pilot. Then you make a pilot, and then the writer's strike happens, and then like everything goes on hold so it's been like almost five, maybe more years in the making, this whole thing. So to actually see it come to fruition, and then to get to be a part of it, like, look, I had to audition.
I was going to ask you, what did that look like? Because I was imagining whether that character Ali was written with you in mind, or did you have to go up against many other great actors?
I absolutely. I mean, look, the show was filmed in Chicago, and luckily, like, I have a great manager now who pitched me. So one thing that a lot of local actors in Boston and elsewhere are familiar with is now post-COVID, a lot of auditions are self-tapes. So you tape them at home.
For better or for worse.
For better or for worse. Yeah. I think it's great. I hate auditions. So, like, I mean, and then you might get a live Zoom callback, or then you might have to actually fly and go somewhere to do like a screen test or a chemistry reader, that kind of thing. But like the initial auditions now are mostly, self-tapes. So we pretended that I was a Chicago local, and luckily because of my former career as a punk rocker, I know people all over the country, in here, Canada, Europe, lots of places. I've always got a couch I can crash on.
Yeah.
So I spent, so I basically like was hitting up some friends to be like, hey, like I'm auditioning for the show, But yeah, so I mean, I went through 3-4 rounds of auditions, just like everybody else.
And you mentioned it during the watch party, is that your character and some other characters, they were only written for maybe 2 episodes at the most.
What I've heard. So essentially, like our sort of gang, which is if folks haven't seen the show, but if you've seen something like Sopranos, if you think of like Uncle Paulie or Chris Moltisanti, that sort of like gang, that's kind of like what I compare us to. The 4 of us are called Maliks. So Malik is sort of a word for like capo in the mob thing. So originally, like I think they had just planned for the 4 of us to kind of like come in for a little bit and then leave. And I had actually booked a play. So my plan was to finish Deli Boys and then go on tour with my first like national theater tour for 3 months. And then we kept getting word that they liked the 4 of us together, and so they kept writing us into more and more episodes. And now it's like, yeah, I just actually got all my footage yesterday, so I've been like, the nerd stuff. When you like first start acting, you're like, oh man, one day like I'm gonna I hope I get to have like a cool reel or something, that I can be like one of those people that like has some cool scenes here and there, and like mine was. And I've just been so fortunate in the last 2. And I've been at the acting thing professionally now for, I'd say, 12 years, 10, 12. And just in the last 2 years, it's really been a meteoric kind of a thing. And you never know, in this, if this is it, dude, I did everything I wanted to do. So it's like,
I can't imagine this being it. I don't want to jinx anything. I don't want to jinx anything. But again, the not only are you fantastic in it, the writing is just it's so good. It's so snappy.
Yeah.
Again, so if you haven't seen Deli Boys on Hulu, get to watching it right now. And we can talk more about this in great length. But I'm curious. You said you grew up in Boston, in the Boston area.
I grew up in a town called Boxborough.
Boxborough.
Yeah, Acton, Boxborough.
So like, when did the act? You said you had a career, another life in music as a punk rocker.
I still do.
I
still play a lot of music. Yeah.
Where did the acting bug part come from?
I mean, I think it came from making fun of my aunts and uncles and people in the Pakistani community, like at home and at parties. So like I always had like the performer gene thing in me. My dad used to have like slideshows at home. Like he has like. My dad used to work for Kodak. And,
I love your family even more because I'm a big film guy. I love film. I love film photography.
Totally. So my dad has probably 50,000 slides.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So one thing we would do as a family all the time is, he'd get out his projector. We would watch the slides like on the wall or like
That's
on
so
the screen
cool.
thing. And I would just get up and like start making fun. And like anytime we were with like in the Pakistani community or like we're with my family or something, like people are like, oh, come on, like put on a show. So so from a young age I was doing that. I got into plays from that. I think my first audition in junior high at R.J. Gray High School with Linda Potter, I still remember, was for a show called On Broadway. It was a musical. I booked the lead role. And I remember my mom tells this story, and all parents want their kid to be special.
Yeah.
But she was like, she always said this kid's got something, So, and I think I definitely I wanted to perform, because I needed attention or whatever, whatever the hell we want.
Same here. So, I used to I did improv and theater in high school, and I felt like I was always kind of like a social butterfly, but I felt like the most natural on a stage in front of people performing. I would get the butterflies beforehand, but as soon as my feet hit the stage, absolute calm and just feeling like I'm at home.
Yeah, and honestly, I have my parents to thank for that, particularly my mom, who was the one that would drive me to piano lessons, or my dad who got me into music specifically, and just always cultivated the love of music and art. So, I'm totally indebted to them.
You mentioned the, people asking you, are going to go to Los Angeles? I'm originally from Southern California.
Okay.
And so maybe 40 minutes east of downtown LA. And so when I thought moving to Boston, when it was suggested moving to Boston, I thought, that sounds
why would I
terrible.
leave all this food and go to this
the
cold?
Warmth, the food, the family, and all that stuff. Why would I do that? 6 years later, I'm married and have a baby here. So I'm not.
I mean, look, every place has its, it's about making a community, and you can do that wherever, And I have tons of friends. I was just in LA for our big red carpet there. If I had to move or something, I have a community already there, and I can get a taco anytime I want. You know what I mean? Or any food ever.
Yeah.
So there's pros and cons. I think for me, I think I was mentioning earlier, at least for the time being, I think it's important that this stuff that I do is very special to me, and I don't want it to become what's the word I'm looking for? Regular.
Yeah.
So. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. But the thing is, Jamie and I, we call Boston Hollywood East.
Yeah.
Because, for the past, several years,
coming here,
they're
man.
all coming here. I have a friend who works behind the scene. He's a grip, and he's worked on the movie, the show Yellowstone, a bunch of big stuff. And he says, they're drying up in Los Angeles, and they're all going to places.
Markets. Yeah, man. I shot a great indie sci-fi last year in Denver called Giant Void, and they're trying to do a similar thing that we did out here with our tax incentive structure. So it's actually a really great time, I think, to be an actor or in this industry in other places than you would traditionally think. Obviously, it's not maybe as big of a market as New York or LA or now Atlanta or whatever, but there's a lot of stuff happening.
It's growing too.
Aftermath, I did that movie here. I did that same year. I did this. I did a Lifetime movie, a murder mystery. Just a feel good that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And those were the two biggest things in my career that then got me a manager. And then 2 months later, I was on Succession. So, it's definitely happening out here.
No, yeah, when we tell people too, and we like to highlight and showcase and put a spotlight on local talent because, they are appearing in big movies, big productions, big shows, or even commercials and whatnot because, the jobs are here. Boston, New England, they are attracting that money.
I will be, the new Walking Dead was shot out here, so I'll be on an episode of that.
I was going to ask, can we talk about that? Or
I think I can say it. I mean, I won't go into specifics.
Yeah.
But so there's that. I also did another show, an Apple series, which I probably shouldn't mention yet, which I have a very small part in. But lots of stuff happening.
So a lot of stuff happening. And so, and again, I do want to touch back on Deli Boys because I'm fixated on it right now. But as we mentioned, Aftermath, the film on Netflix, and it was filmed on the Tobin Bridge, or was it based on the Tobin?
Yeah, so they definitely shot. They did a cool job of filming exteriors, but they built a replica of a good chunk of it in an airplane hangar in Weymouth.
Yeah.
So that was you walk in and it was life size. I drive on the Tobin.
Yeah.
Pretty much most days in a week. So
did they get the grittiness for those who are not aware what the Tobin Bridge is?
No, I'm not even kidding. They got every little dent.
Yeah.
You literally there's a part that you can drive across right now and I can put myself back into 100%.
So what was that like? Because that's not only are you in this this big Netflix film, but it's based on something that you personally you drive through, or you have that connection.
So at the time, it was not it was not a Netflix film yet. It was just this sort of like kind of mysterious, big budget, but still indie film that was a really big deal here in Boston. So we shot this in 2021. I believe 2021 or 2022. I think 2021.
Were you wearing masks during that period?
Yeah. So
maybe
it was in the midst of COVID, and it was like it was already kind of a dystopian thing, and it was my first role. It was my first role film that I booked where I had lines to say. So just a few months before that, I had been a featured extra in the film Don't Look Up, which was the
big Leo, Jennifer Lawrence.
Exactly, yeah. And I got to be, like, I didn't say anything, but I was in a scene with every big actor in that movie. You can see me for 1 second in the movie, but it was like one of the coolest times of my life. And it was one of those like reassuring, like, hey, like, because you always wonder, like, if I ever get to do something like that, like, how badly will I mess it up?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that had just happened, and that kind of like I had also left my my full-time job just after that because I felt like I just wanted to do creative stuff more. I actually have a master's in community psychology from UMass Lowell, so I was working in behavioral health research and stuff, and I just didn't feel creatively fulfilled. I felt a little stifled. So that summer, and I had been auditioning for films in Boston for years, for almost 8 to 10 years at that. Yeah, I think if you think maybe 6, 7, 8 years, I just never booked anything. I would book, corporate videos or like jokingly like diversity training videos where I'd play like the Muslim character.
You're like waving in the background.
Yeah. I just, whatever. And, I just wasn't ready. And then this movie comes along. I had a couple of different auditions for it, actually to play like a couple of the like hostage taker folks. And then like this other one comes along, and my agent at the time sent it. He's like, "Hey, there's this other character named Ozzy. It's just give it a shot." And so I did, and just like anything else, eventually you get used to just putting stuff out and not thinking about it because it's a numbers game really. And then I book it, and I get there. And the director comes and meets me right away. He's like, "Hey, this is just this is like one of my favorite characters in the movie." I got the script. I was like, "Oh, I'm liking some scenes here." Because I just had never, and then it was off, it was day one. I got a gun, I got a trailer, I got a stunt double, a stand-in, and I'd only ever been on background sets, so I wasn't used to any of this stuff, and I was absolutely terrified, but like, it ended up being an awesome time, and still after that, like, the movie kind of went away. We didn't know if it was ever going to come out. And then, and I stayed really good friends with the with the director, Patrick Lussier.
The Patrick, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you look up Patrick Lussier on IMDb, you will see the kind of work this guy has done. And also the writer of the film, Nathan Graham Davis, who is a Massachusetts native. He actually lives out in Western Mass. I was just talking to him today. It just... one thing after another, kind of, you know what I mean?
Can you take me to one thing you said? Can you take me to that moment where you are walked up to your trailer? You go in the trailer and you have a moment by yourself. Like, what's in your head at that moment?
Oh, absolutely. So the funny thing is, because I had never had that before, I just went to the regular where I would go, like to the background holding, and I found my buddy now Joseph Cardozo, who was playing he was wearing the same thing I was wearing. So I was like, oh. Or no, sorry, he was wearing what I knew I was going to be wearing. So he was like, and I just started sitting there, and then someone came out, and I went up to the place to sign in, and they're like, "I'm sorry, what's your name?" I'm like, "Oh, shit." And they're like, "Oh no, you need to come with us." And so I was like, "Oh shit, okay." So I don't know.
No, yeah, you're good. You're good. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, dude. I mean, going back there, I mean, yeah, it's still, and honestly, like that feeling has not left me still because like, and again, another reason I think is because I make an effort to like make sure that I know how lucky I am to do this, and that it's not just like you don't take this stuff for granted, and like just like I'm used to look from my days of punk rock, like I've slept on disgusting like pee-stained couches and stuff and people's floors, and so for me like I'm just there to like do the work and stuff, but yeah, it's like it's a total magical experience, man. And same thing like when you first when the elevator door opened, I remember after I had booked Succession and I got there and they're all just standing there and I'm just like, oh my God, this is like real. But then you just, you like, the more you do it, you realize that, these are people and they make, and I mean, my favorite part actually is when people mess up.
Yeah.
When like people that you know are like good actors or whatever, and you're just like, oh yeah, like we're all just like doing this.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's one thing I had to convince or remind myself when I first started reporting, when I would do like live hits. So there's no second chances when you do a live shot or a live hit. And so when my first time reporting and I would flub or mess up, you think, oh man, like I'm a failure. You have the imposter syndrome kind of thing going on. And then when you're recording the report, so it'll be sent in and played later, like on repeat, like it's taking me like 5, 10, 20 takes seemingly to get this thing right. And then, at one point, I don't know what it was, but it clicked in my head of like, look at all the big actors, Robert De Niro, Leo DiCaprio, Meryl Streep. They all have bloopers. Like they all have like lines where it may have taken somebody 20, 30 takes to get a shot. And so like, you know what? Like we're all human, as you said. And so it's okay to take multiple takes to have a mess up. It doesn't reflect on you as a person. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm confiding in you.
Yeah, man. But make it a therapy session.
I know.
You're okay, James.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm someone.
You're gonna make it.
No, thank you. No, but I think that's great. And is there anything that surprised you? Maybe that was the most surprising thing for you, but the thing that most surprised you about this industry, whether it's going through the audition process, whether it's on the set filming, or even after, like what part of this industry that you can think of kind of like, oh, that's interesting?
That there's like a lot of good people, man. Like I think you hear, and I've also been very fortunate, I think, too. I don't have too many like bad experiences, but I don't know, it's just like there's a lot of like good, decent, hardworking people that can, are just like inspiring, just in all aspects of production. Like I think that part is always not surprising, but it's always something that when you, it's something that you're like grateful for, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And also just like, it's just so much fun, man. Like it really is. Like I can't think of anything like more fun. Even like, I think I saw when I was one of the panels for Deli Boys, one of the two lead actors, Sagar, he was saying that, what other job is there where people are like, oh man, I didn't get to come in on, I wish I could have come in on Friday, or you know what I mean? And that's kind of like at the end of Deli Boys, like we all had that experience of just like not wanting to leave and, going in on our days off and stuff. And so that part, yeah.
The Succession, you mentioned, walking the elevator open and you're seeing everybody there. How did that come into place? Yeah,
so that whole thing, I had just gotten the person who is now my manager, her name is Melissa Young. She's a beast. She's awesome. And it was like, I'd been with her for a couple of months, done a bunch of auditions, and I booked, like, as soon as that was like my favorite show at the time. And I was like, no way. So I literally just jumped in my car and started driving to New York. I thought I had like one line I knew I had like one line or something. So I was like, I'll probably be there for like a day. Didn't even like read the whole letter carefully. I just was already driving. And then I was on the phone with Melissa and she was like, yeah, so it's 5 days. And I was like, oh, it's 5 days? Okay, that's cool. I'll tell. And I only packed like for 2 days or whatever.
I need somewhere to sleep also.
Yeah, well, that I had covered because I had my friend. And there was something in the letter about like, you'll have like a green room. And again, for me, like green room is like a room where we're all sitting, all the extras or whatever, or background folks are sitting together. There's a bathroom that we share. I get there. It turns out the green room is my own hotel room. The hotel room is the same hotel that the cast is staying in. I'm on the same floor as like Kieran Culkin and Nicholas Braun and stuff, and it just was like, yeah, but also like it took so long for me to get here that I kind of feel like it's been happening at the right time, and it's taken me this many years and this many decades to kind of like see like how much. It just feels better. I don't exactly know what I'm trying to say. Actually,
yeah.
It just feels like I have a little bit more of a bird's eye view of stuff now, and just kind of like what is what's important about it is not the, like, in my 20s, I was like, we have to be the most famous band in the world, and like, I'm not going to enjoy, and I didn't enjoy it. I mean, I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it, I did, but like, mostly I was like insecure and like worried about like, all right, the next thing, and like, if we don't do this, then I'm never going to make it or whatever. At this point in my life, like, look, this is all awesome. I know how lucky I am to be able to say, like, I am doing exactly what I always wanted to do in my life. Like, that's what I'm doing. But if it all goes away, like, that's okay too, man. Like, honestly, like, I have family, I have like my friends, I have a other career I can go back to, I have like other ways to survive and stuff,
Well, again, I don't want to jinx anything, but
I don't know why I keep saying that. Yeah,
no.
Maybe it's 'cause I still can't believe it.
Yeah,
I'm honest with you, dude. I cannot believe any of this still. Like, it's not that it doesn't feel real. It's like too good sometimes.
Yeah. No, but I think, from what I've seen, I think you're very charismatic. I'll be honest. I think you're very charismatic. And so that's what people like to not only see on a screen, but also what they like to work with. And I can't imagine you having, or anybody like having a negative interaction with you like on a set or whatnot. Again, like Deli Boys, it just looks like everybody is having fun. Everybody feels like they're a family, even though they're, kind of enemies in the show. But like it feels so effortless.
Yeah, man, and that's like the one thing about all of it is it is not just about one person, man. It's like, especially from the few years that I've been doing this, it is such a collaborative thing to make a movie or a show or a play or like any artistic endeavor which involves more than yourself. Like, you can't, you have to be open to like collaborating with other people. I
know over here we know, the boys of Boston, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Sure. They're like the most. We have a lot of famous people from Massachusetts, from New England. But I still feel like sometimes people may think that's for them. But I don't have a chance. So if you could give advice to somebody who hears your story, who is interested in the arts in whatever form, but they feel like, Hollywood's too far away, LA's too far away, or that dream is too far away. Any words of advice that you can offer?
Yeah, man, you just make stuff. I mean, especially now, you can make a movie on your phone. Like, it's not like, definitely like, don't wait for stuff to come to you, I think like, also be wary of, I don't know, I guess, thinking that you should be like a yes and type person, if that makes sense. Like they teach in improv and stuff. Yeah. And just, I don't know. There's just like surround yourself. This is very, I feel like generic advice. I hope it's not, but like you just surround yourself with other people that like inspire you and like give you life and stuff, and just like make stuff with them, man. That's what I did in my 20s, like to start this band. And like, then when it came to, I joined a local theater troupe after I got sober. I've been sober 14 years. A couple years into it, there was a local theater troupe that focused on actors in recovery. So at the time it was called The Improbable Players. Now it's called Second Act. And we would do plays in drama workshops in middle schools, high schools, like community centers and stuff. Just simple stuff about, addiction, that not like too many props or anything. But that kind of like got the acting thing going again. And so that was like one community that I found. Subdrift is another one, Subcontinental Drift here in Boston, of just people that, like anything that you want to do, there's somebody out there doing it. Mm-hmm. So.
That's people when I'm out in the field reporting, and every now and then somebody will come up to me like, hey, how did you get your job? How did you get started and whatnot? And I told them like, and sometimes I'll say, I went to school for broadcast journalism, and then I kind of see like a little bit of deflation in their eyes, but then I tell them immediately like, but you don't have to do that.
I didn't really study. I mean, look, I'm a 3-time college dropout. I did eventually finish at UMass Lowell. But I didn't go to school to be an actor,
No, just say do it. Just like you said, make video. I told somebody like just this past week, they asked like how do you do this? And as I said, I went to college for this, but if you have a free weekend where you're not working, go to an event, go somewhere, and you could record on your phone or get a starter microphone or what have you, but just go out there and do it over and over and over again until you become more comfortable. And then when you become more comfortable and you have enough good content, then you can make a demo reel and then start like making connections. And so
I mean, I started acting in student films here in Boston. Boston has a couple of amazing schools, BU, Emerson, and a lot of those students are super talented. I still have a reel from a friend of mine who is now actually wants to put me in a feature film that he's doing from when he was in BU. It was that good. So like it can be done.
Yeah.
You know, I still even just earlier this year I acted in Emerson college student film just because I liked her work and stuff. So
yeah, I know we get a lot of casting calls, and one thing we do on the podcast is we list the casting calls from Boston Casting, from the local colleges as well, because not only do we like to spotlight and highlight local talent in whichever whatever form they work at in the industry, we promote those casting calls because hey, maybe this is your break, maybe this is what your experience that you build up that goes to the next project and then the next project. And so I love that. Again, we call this Hollywood East. We're seeing a growth. We're seeing, I think, a boom in not only the local talent, but the desire to bring talent over here as well. And you're helping. I think you are firsthand helping.
No, man,
that
means so much to me because, like, look, 10 years ago, I was kind of wondering if that could ever happen for me, So it's really, really cool and super gratifying to, like, for to be in a position where you're asking me for advice is wild.
Yeah.
I
feel a lot of similarities between us because there's a couple of reporters who are new at BZ, and I know I look young, but I've been reporting for about 11, 12 years. And so one of the reporters recently came like, hey, I have a question for you because, as a veteran reporter, I wanted to get your thought. And I'm like, whoa, veteran reporter. Like, oh my God. And then it takes me a second, like, oh God, I've been here for a while. I've been doing this for a while. I'm the veteran now, which sounds crazy. But no, it's nice to be in that position where people can ask you for advice or, the do's and don'ts, and you can like steer them in the right direction in ways that somebody maybe helped you when you were in that same position.
And also sometimes you have to be like, look, there's no rules.
No, there isn't.
You kind of like.
We're all trying.
There's no like. It's not like you do this, take this exam, and then you guaranteed. There's no rules to this. And like I've broken probably every rule that I don't know. I heard so.
Yeah. You're a disruptor.
Yeah, man. I like that.
So let me ask you, because we can go into more of these of your projects that you've done, but I always ask people, what are you watching right now?
Oh, man. Let's see. So my wife Lauren and I, we just watched, we're in the middle of Severance for sure. And I had the pleasure of working with Deecha and Lockman in Aftermath a couple of years before I believe the first season of Severance actually came out. Then White Lotus for sure. I also really love The Righteous Gemstones, and so lucky to have Tim Baltz in Deli Boys who plays BJ in Righteous Gemstones. So many good shows, man.
Yeah.
Interior Chinatown, another Hulu show.
Never heard of it.
Absolutely phenomenal show. Jimmy O Yang, and Ronnie Chang, the two stand-ups. They have it's called Interior, like INT, like in a script. Interior Chinatown.
Yeah.
Just an incredible, stylistic, cool show. Reservation Dogs, another super cool show, and we actually have another. I can't believe I get to like. One of their editors is one of the editors of Deli Boys too. Baharun, and a couple of actually, I think a few of their editors worked on Deli Boys as well. We randomly were watching this show. It's a few years old, called Escape from Denimore Prison. It's like Benicio del Toro, Patricia Arquette. Didn't seem like it was going to be that interesting because it's about like a prison break. It's a story that kind of thing has been done before. It is based on a true story, but just done very, very well. What else am I into, man? Oh, one of my favorite shows in the last 10 years, Midnight Mass.
You're like listing so many. I don't watch as many shows as you do.
No,
apparently,
but that's the thing. Like, there's just so much.
Yeah,
stuff
there
out
is.
there. So that's why it's hard to like know if whatever. There's shows for like anybody.
Yeah.
So I think it can be a little bit overwhelming, but yeah.
So I know I keep hearing great things about White Lotus, about Severance. And again, I guess
What about you? What are you watching?
What am I watching right now? Besides Deli Boys on Hulu,
On Hulu.
streaming right now.
Set up a bot farm. Stream it. Yeah, please.
I'm watching Daredevil. The thing is, like I was telling Jamie, we've talked in at length about the whole Marvel, the state of Marvel, and I've really hit this slump where I'm like not really excited for the movies or for the shows or whatever. And I really liked Daredevil when it was on Netflix when it first had its first run. Now it's on Disney Plus, and I was very hesitant to get into it, even though like I like the character, like Charlie Cox, the actor. I was like, Marvel's just have a bad taste in my mouth. By it.
I was never much of a Marvel person,
So I'm in that slump. However, I watched the first episode because Jamie did a review of the first 2 episodes, and it's great. Like it's really really good TV. I got back into Daredevil. Looking forward to Andor season 2.
Okay,
that's the Star Wars one.
Okay. Also, I'm not a huge Star Wars person. I know I'm very dude. I saw the original 3 Star Wars like one time.
Sometimes that's all you need. I think for most.
I was like 7. I don't remember too much about it, but
yeah. I respect that. I feel like there's a lot of Star Wars glut right now. However, Andor, I will assure you, it is a very, very good Star Wars show, and season 2 is coming out soon.
Also before it, the show Mo on Netflix. It's about a Palestinian immigrant family that lives in Houston. Amazing show. It's just the 2nd season now.
Okay.
So, and actually, one of my castmates from Deli Boys who's in my gang, Azhar Usman, he was one of the writers on that show. He also wrote on the show Rami. So many good shows.
I'm making a list now. I'm making a list.
Yeah, I'll text you.
It's funny. I have to convince my wife to watch anything new. She always sticks to like comfort shows.
Sure.
Whether it's Psych, nothing wrong with it. I love the shows also, but like Psych or Seinfeld, and I have to
It's funny you mention that. That's actually something that Asif from Deli Boys talked about in another interview that him and I did together, or he's talked about it in several, where South Asians, we never had a show that you could like rewatch, like a comedy kind of thing like that, and Deli Boys is kind of that. Like I could see myself, and hopefully you can, just like watching it and like rewatching it and like going, like we didn't have that kind of a Seinfeld-y type shows.
No, again, at the point where I watched 2 episodes, I'm 3 in, so I'm the 4th one. Right after this, I'm going to watch episode 4. But after the 2nd episode, I was telling my wife, like, this is really good. You need to watch it. She's like, oh, you already started it. Like, I'm down to watch it again.
And they're like 20 minutes each, so it's not so bad.
No, yeah. So those are some things I'm watching right now. Are you into movies? It seems like you're a TV guy.
Yeah. Yeah, what's but now you're going to ask me what's like a movie that I saw recently.
I'll start. I'll give you time to think. I watched. I'm a big Paddington fan.
Okay.
Paddington 1, Paddington 2. I always say Paddington 2. Yeah, I always say Paddington 2 is Empire Strikes Back. Oh, that's not good for you. It's the Godfather 2 of the Paddington series.
Okay.
It's a fantastic movie. Paddington in Peru just came out this past month.
Okay.
In the States, they came out in the UK months ago, but it just reached the States. But it's good. It's a good movie.
Okay.
So
I guess you're right that I'm probably currently more of a TV guy than a movie guy as much. But one thing that last year that I remember that we liked a lot was Dream Scenario with Nicolas Cage.
Oh,
I saw it here in Kendall Square.
Which one is that? The one where people are dreaming of him?
Yeah,
I saw that one too. That one's really good. That one's really
fantastic.
good.
Yeah,
that's a good one. I feel like there's not a horror one recently that I've seen, but
there is a new horror movie that a friend of mine, directed, on Hulu. It's called Control Freak, which just came out yesterday, which I need to go see.
Excellent. So, well, shout out to Control Freak and all those other amazing projects. Let's see. Well, I feel like we've hit a lot of topics. And I know you mentioned you have your punk rock. And I'm curious, like how did punk rock enter your life?
Man, so when I was 19 or 20, I had been dropping out of college left and right. And sort of a teenage friend of mine and I ended up starting like what would become this band called the Kominas, Kominas, and it was the first like South Asian punk band. We would get called a Muslim punk band for sort of like the tongue-in-cheek stuff that we did. This was around, we started the band in 2004, so we actually just celebrated our 20th anniversary in December. We had a little reunion. We're not super active anymore. But yeah, took over my life for, a good 10, 15 years. We have like 4 or 5 albums.
What did your parents or family think? Of like,
they weren't
has he lost,
super psyched.
Has he lost his mind?
They were kind of like, they just want, honestly, like, it was more just because I was, mental health was not that great.
Yeah.
So they just I was having trouble finding my way and stuff. But our band did start to get a good amount of attention. We got like written up in Rolling Stone and stuff, and we put out a few albums. We went on some tours here and internationally and stuff. And yeah, so I mean, for like most of my 20s, I was basically just on the road, touring, playing music. Now I play with a really great band in Providence called Ravi Shavi. We're going to be recording a new album this year, so I'm actually sort of like, Providence is my second home. I actually just had an article come out today in Rhode Island Monthly, and I'm there usually like once every couple weeks, if not more. So I still do a ton of music. Next week I'm playing with a good friend of mine up at UVM. His name's Sunny Singh. He's like a Sikh Punjabi singer, trumpet player. He takes shabads from the Sikh spiritual tradition and puts them to music. So we went on a tour together in October with this woman, Valerie Kaur. She's an author. So yeah, man, music is still a huge part of my life. I also make music with the creator of Deli Boys, Abdullah. Me and him and his elder brother have this band called Gods, where the S is a $sign.
Yeah.
So that's like a file sharing project almost, where we just like, he'll send a beat, and the idea is you just kind of like write something to it, don't think too hard about it, and then we just throw it together. And we have like 5-6 albums on Bandcamp. So I'm always making something. I play guitar.
Please tell me that you're working to get a song onto Deli Boys.
Oh yeah.
Like,
for sure,
I want to hear that.
For sure, yeah. I'm sure.
Because I'm already planning for a season 2. I'm already fingers crossed.
So Abdullah actually did the theme song for Deli Boys. His other band, Sunny Ali and the Kid, they have a song in there. The music in the show is really good.
Yeah, it is.
The composer, so
yeah
man.
Excellent. Well, this is a huge pleasure of mine. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Where can people find you, learn more about you, and again, just continue watching this upward trajectory of yours?
Yeah. So I mean, the best place is Instagram, I guess, at Shahjehan. So Shahjistan, Shahjehan. Or I have a website, shahjehankhan.com, my first name and then my last name, Khan, Khan.com. So that's where all my stuff is. Or, I mean, I guess you could Google me, but I can't be held responsible for what comes up.
What comes up.
Because I don't have a publicist.
Yeah. So like, everything's out there.
Yeah.
And I don't want to prolong this because, again, I don't want to hold you up, but like, I'm
literally doing nothing.
Oh,
I was actually supposed to go have dinner with some friends, but their kid is sick, so I have literally nothing to do. I have to pick my wife up eventually from work.
Excellent. Well, hopefully they get well soon. But let me ask you, has your ethnicity maybe like, I don't know, affected, your thoughts of going into any certain direction? And the reason why I ask is because, I'm Mexican American. My grandparents immigrated over here, and my parents, they were born and raised in Southern California. And I don't know, like growing up, I never felt out of, I guess to an extent, because maybe there wasn't that much representation of Mexicans on TV shows or movies. And so I kind of felt like didn't really have anybody to really relate to. And there were times where, some, friends of mine, or a friend of mine back in high school said something about like, oh, you speak so well for being Mexican.
Oh, yeah, one of those.
Or your house is so much nicer than mine, and he is white and you're Mexican. And things like that, it didn't hit directly, but like years back in hindsight, I'm like, is there a certain way I'm supposed to speak or I'm supposed to be? Like, I don't know. Have you experienced?
So it's one thing I forgot to mention is I also have a award-winning narrative podcast series about this very topic called King of the World. My name, Shahjehan, means King of the World. I was named after the guy who built the Taj Mahal, and it's actually about growing up as an American Muslim in the wake of 9/11. I came out on the 20th anniversary of 9/11 in 2021, and it's a 7-part miniseries about because I was a senior in high school when that happened, and it's not like this sort of a podcast. It's more of like an audio documentary. So it's like me as the storyteller with characters coming in, including my family, my friends, my bandmates. Each episode sort of deals with a different theme of identity, of what it means to belong in the U.S. As one of these kind of like first generation, and all the similar sorts of questions that I grappled with through the lens of, a kid coming of age at the age of 18. So if your listeners aren't sick of hearing me talk already, you can hear me talk for 7 more hours just with some cool sound effects and things. But yeah, it's called King of the World. But yeah, man, for sure, it was a very large, not large. I grew up in a very not diverse town. So like Acton, Boxborough, growing up was pretty homogenous. So I definitely grappled between the two identity thing that a lot of us in the first generation kids do. Whether that, having like one identity with one group of people, one with another, definitely dealing with more covert, occasional overt, racism, prejudice, that kind of stuff. So for sure.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is and definitely when we started our band, a lot of that was a reaction to kind of that post 9/11 era, which I hate to say kind of sucks right now too. This whole like conversation about like, around immigrants and stuff, and just kind of like feeling, are we wanted or not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to tell you this.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, like, unfortunately, that stuff. But I think the difference now is like people like you have a show. I'm like doing the stuff I'm doing. We're like the creators. We're not just like tangential parts of this like story. Like, we're the ones that are like writing it too. So yeah.
No, excellent. Yeah, and again, just the advice to people: just do what you want to do. If you want to do something, go for it. Yeah. Don't care about what people think, because oftentimes they're not thinking about you at all. So
and also like I remember one of the best pieces of advice I got was like, why would you take advice from someone who's not doing what you want to do?
That's great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Shahjehan Khan, thank you so much for joining us on the Hub on Hollywood. We're going to hold on to your phone number, your email, and everything, because definitely want to have you back.
My social security number too?
Please, yes, I'll take that on the way out.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely want to have you back on. You're an extremely, you're a great guest, very insightful, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you on more TV screens and hopefully big screens at the AMC at Assembly Row. That'd be great. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me, man.